Hi everyone! Today I've got something really fun and practical for you. 9 watercolor techniques in a single painting. We are going to create a beautiful composition of vases, and each vase will be painted using a different technique. This way you'll not only learn the methods, but also see how they can all come together into one cohesive artwork. Alright, let's dive in. And our first vase will be painted using the wet on wet technique. This is a classic in watercolor painting. I start by wetting the paper with clean water and then drop in pigment while the surface is still shiny and damp. See how the paint blooms and spreads in soft, unpredictable ways. This is a classic watercolor technique and is perfect for creating smooth blends, soft gradients, and natural textures. And it's also a great way to get that dreamy watercolor effect. Next up is wet on dry. Here I apply paint directly onto dry paper. Notice how the edges stay crisp and defined compared to wet on wet technique. This is the technique to use when you want sharp shapes, precise details, or when you are layering different elements without them merging together. And I leave it as it is for now, but I will be back to this vase to add some pattern on it. For our third vase, we'll use layering, also called glazing. Once the first layer is completely dry, I will be adding another wash of color on top. This technique allows you to build depths and richer tones without muddying the colors. Each new layer slightly alters the previous one, almost like tinted glass. It's a powerful way to create volume and dimensions in your artwork. Now that the second vase is completely dry, I can add a pattern using again the wet and dry technique. I press the brush onto the paper in the same direction to create a petal-shaped marks. And come back to layering. This vase will take a bit longer to complete because I need to wait for each layer to dry completely before adding the next one. If you enjoy learning watercolor tips and creative experiments like this, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe because I have many more tutorials and ideas coming your way. Time for vase number 4. And here is where it gets a little experimental, the salt technique. First, I cover the shape of vase with the paint and I'm trying to keep it as wet and as dark as possible to see the effect better. And while the paint is still wet, I'll sprinkle a bit of salt. I have 2 types of salt here. One is big rock salt and a table salt. So I'm spreading it on the surface. And as the paint dries, the salt crystals absorb the pigment and should create star-like textures that resemble stone, rust, or even cosmic patterns. I'm going to finish layering now. You can see as each transparent layer changes the tone just a little, so the vase becomes more dimensional and interesting with every step. It does take patience since you can't rush the drying process. That's why this vase feels like it's unfolding slowly, almost like a story in watercolor. Now it's time for dry brush. I load a small amount of pigment onto a brush with a very little water and drag it across the textured paper. I am shaping this vase using only parallel lines. I think it's a good way to demonstrate the dry brush technique. For the next vase, I will be using bubble wrap. But first I lay down a juicy wash of color and then press some bubble wrap over it. So once it dries and I remove the plastic, it leaves behind amazing geometric textures. This technique is fantastic for adding abstract, organic patterns without much effort. Next is lifting color. So while the wash is still damp, I will use clean brush with water to lift pigment away. This creates highlights and lighter areas. It's almost like erasing watercolor. And it's perfect for adding reflections, shine, or fixing areas that got too dark. Okay, let's check our bubble wrap. The paint should be dry by now, and it looks quite interesting. By the way, plastic wrap creates a different texture, but I'll leave that for another experiment. Now all vases are done, but we still have 2 techniques to try. And the next one will be stencil with sponge. So I'm going to add some branches and leaves into one of the vases, and we'll be using a simple stencil and sponge. I dab watercolor over the cutout shape. This creates clean, textured leaf patterns instantly. It's a fun way to add decorative elements and is especially handy if you want repeated shapes that look crisp but still painterly. And we'll add a few branches. So we've done almost everything. What's left? Sputtering. So finally, let's have some fun with sputtering. And I'm going to use it for another decorative element. Going to use stencil again, very simple one, and it's better to cover everything around. So I load my brush with pigment and tap it to create random splashes across the paper. This is a great way to add energy, texture, or even a natural look like leaves, flowers, or starry skies. If you found this tutorial helpful, give it a thumbs up, share it with your creative friends, and let me know in the comments which technique you are excited to try next. And there we have it, 9 watercolor techniques combined into one painting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.